So if in any full stack interview, if someone asks me this question, that what are the basic selectors, okay, then how am I supposed to answer? Or if someone asks me like what is the difference between class selector versus ID selector, then how am I supposed to answer that? Okay, so in today's video we are going to discuss about these two questions. CSS से रिलेटेड या आप फुल स्टैक के इंटरव्यू देने जा रहे हो या फ्रंट एंड के इंटरव्यू देने जा रहे हो, दिस काइंड, ये दोनों इस टाइप के क्वेश्चन हैं जो कि पूछे जा सकते हैं, बहुत हाई चांसेस. क्लास वर्सेस आईडी, तो दिस क्वेश्चन तो इज़ लाइक वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन है. ओके, so we'll start with the first question. First of all, what are basic selectors? Basic selectors are the ones which basically help you to directly target any specific element. Okay, not just one specific element, you can also target group of elements. Okay, inside basic selectors there are multiple ways of putting styling to some elements. There are 4 different ways. Okay, so for the first question, so for the first question, let me rewrite it properly. Yes, so for the first question, in case of basic selectors, we are having 4 different ways. Okay, so first way is your tag name, that you will be having some tag name. Based on the tag name you can write down the styling. Next would be your global selector, that you will be having one global selector which is basically your star. Okay, tag name would be anything like h1, h2, paragraph tag, div, span. Based on any of the tag names your styling would be applied. Okay, then comes is the class selectors. Okay, which means you will be providing some class attribute with some value to the specific HTML element, and then later you will be utilizing that one. Okay, like for example, if I am having a div, okay, and then I will be providing it class in this way. Okay, some text and then closing div. किसी भी div tag को create करोगे उसके अंदर आप like you can provide the class attribute to the div, any HTML element, okay, and then we can provide some value to it, and now based on this value we can provide the class and styling like this. Okay, other than class we have another 4th way, which is your ID tag. Okay, by using ID we basically use hashtag and some ID over here like box 1 and then close. Over here if you are providing ID, so in that case you will have to provide ID attribute and then you can write down over here box 1 like this. Okay, so these are the different ways of writing styling to any HTML elements based on the CSS basic selectors. Okay, let me recap what I'm trying to say. So basic selectors are the ones which basically helps you to target the elements based on either of their tag name, based on their global level, or based on some class attributes or ID attributes. Okay, so there are 4 different ways of providing styling to any element using basic selectors. 4 ways are: first one is tag name, by using the tag name of the HTML element. Second one would be by providing any global selector. Okay, if I am providing global selector, then the styling will be applied to all the HTML elements, which means it will be applied on the body of the HTML. Okay, not to any specific element, to entire HTML web page. Okay, then comes is the third way, which is class. Class basically helps you to target the HTML elements where the class attribute is provided. Okay, so we have to make sure that the class attribute is provided in this case to that specific element. 4th way would be ID selector. ID selector would only be used when the ID attribute is provided to that specific HTML element. Okay, so this is the basic selectors. These are the 4 different basic selectors we have. Okay, now let's jump to the next question, which is the difference between class versus ID selector. Okay, like what is the difference between these two? Like why do we have these two when in the both case we are providing these as attributes? Then what is the difference between class selector versus ID selector? Okay, so very very important question over here. Okay, is that class selector, whenever any difference is being asked to you, try to, like even when you're answering the question, try to give answer in such a way like as if you are actually expressing it, okay, in like some tabular format only. Okay, all right, So in case of class selector is whenever you are providing class to any HTML element, first thing is that you can provide one single class name to multiple HTML elements. Okay, one class can be provided to multiple elements. Okay, this is the first point. But in case of ID is unique. Okay, so class can be provided to multiple HTML elements, which means I can say box class to multiple div elements. Okay, or I can say like parent class to multiple div elements. Okay, but I cannot say ID, same ID to multiple elements. Okay, ID is always unique to any HTML element. If I have given any ID as box1 to one specific element, then I cannot give ID as box1 to any other element. Okay, that is the difference between class versus ID. That is the first difference. Okay, next difference would be class ID. Yeah, next difference would be like if you have provided one class to any element, you can provide multiple classes. Okay, which means one element can have multiple classes, which means I can provide class attribute like this, and I can say over here box as one class, box one as another class. Okay, like this I can do this thing. Okay, which means my one single element is basically having two classes. Box is my class number 1, okay, and box 2 is my class number 2. But in case of ID is unique for one single element also. For that one specific element also it is unique. So you can provide only one ID. You can provide only one ID to one element. So for one specific element we can provide only one single ID. That's it. Okay, so one more point into this can be the second point. Then third point into this is that classes we mostly use for the styling purpose. Okay, whenever we are doing the styling or CSS, then we will be using classes. This is more for the JavaScript purpose. Okay, when you are doing the DOM manipulation, we'll talk about what is DOM manipulation once we are studying JavaScript, because I have started the JavaScript tutorials now, so you can go and start check that out also. Okay, so like whenever we are working with the JavaScript, we'll be using the ID over there. Okay, fourth difference could be like when you are creating class, you will be writing down the CSS like this. Okay, but when you are writing ID, then you will be writing your CSS like this, box ID like this, by using hashtag in this way. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and keep watching. Stay tuned for more questions.